What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated Podcast, episode 177.
177.
On this Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. 95 days from the start of the 2025 season. That's right. We're under 100 days. So the countdown has begun. The calendar shifts to June this weekend. We're getting the mind right. We're getting a little closer. Spring meetings are going on right now in the SEC. You got media days coming up in just about a month and a half. It's starting to get. We're getting somewhere a little bit in the offseason. We're going to look ahead to the season a little bit today with what Oklahoma's most intriguing game is on the schedule for us. We're also going to talk about another front office hire for Jim Nagy. We'll also hit some hoop stuff, and of course, Diamond Sports Women's College World Series starting this week. NCAA baseball tournament starting this week as well. So busy times for the Diamond Sports. We'll get into all of it today here on the program. Tom, first off, good to have you back. First time talking in a couple of weeks. How was the trip? Good to have you back, man. We missed you.
Yeah, the Maine and Boston were pretty cold for the middle of May.
Yeah.
But it was good to get away and relax and do some hiking, and went to a Red Sox game and just kind of explored Boston for a bit too. So good time.
Absolutely. You left it. We were talking a little bit off there. You left at the perfect time because it has been very slow on the football front, as it usually is in late May. We've had some recruiting news. Obviously, we've gotten that with Colin. We'll do more of that later this week as they picked up another commit, late last week. But yeah, it's getting into a bit of the dog days of the off season. Obviously, in the late May, almost into June. We're looking ahead. We're getting excited though. Like I said, once you kind of get under that 100 number and the calendar flips to June, which it does on Sunday. Not that we're getting close, but it feels like you're starting to shift the mindset a little bit. You start to let your mind wander toward football a little bit. And kind of on that note, Tom, you made the note a few weeks ago on our board to our VIP members that this Thursday is we're going to get some kickoff times, not for the whole season, but at least some early season kickoff times. Expectation is probably Oklahoma, Michigan will be in there. Kind of got me thinking, as like I said, all these things combined, starting to really look ahead to the season. What game gets you guys most fired up? What's Oklahoma's most intriguing game in 2025? Now, that the important word is intriguing, not necessarily their most important or most difficult or whatever, toughest, just the game that interests you the most. I think there's a lot of candidates for this. You can take whatever direction you want, but for you guys, when you look ahead to start of the season, what's maybe the one that excites you? You kind of circle like that game is going to be really interesting to me for whatever reason it may be.
For me, it honestly might be that Michigan game.
Yeah.
Just because it's an early season test for.
We'll learn a lot. Yeah.
We'll learn a lot about them, especially going up against a Michigan defense that should be really good. I think they're top 3 maybe in ESPN's like post-spring SP Plus refresh that got posted a few days ago. So it's going to be a really good early season test for this new look Oklahoma offense, and I think we're going to learn a lot about them. Certainly they'll have a little bit of runway there with those first couple of games, but to turn around and then host a big time program like Michigan in Norman, I think that's going to tell a lot about this team and kind of where this season might be headed.
Mm-hmm. Josh, you introduced this to us, this topic, like I think yesterday, late last night, and I've been going back and forth on it since then. I thought by the time the show starts, I'll know what I like, but I just can't really decide between Auburn and LSU. Auburn is, you bring who looks like going to be the starting quarterback in Jackson Arnold coming back, coming to Norman and facing Oklahoma in that scenario. That's going to be really, really high, really, really fun situation for OU fans, especially if OU can get the win there. But I also really love this Oklahoma LSU rivalry. That's a budding rivalry for them, and the way that you can end the season on a high note. So I'm just going back and forth between it. I guess I'll go with the Jackson Arnold situations because it's so early in the year, and you really want to start really, really hot because when you consider what's going down the schedule for OU at the end of the season. So you really got to get that game. I think in Norman, I think you would have to win that one. So let's go there. I'll just go there for right now.
I agree totally. Michigan, I kind of said a lot. I assume probably later this summer we'll probably get into when we start to really break down the start of the season, most important or toughest. Michigan is as important as any. I mean, that is such a huge spot early in the year at home to kind of just set the tone for the whole year. Auburn, obviously, with Jackson Arnold coming back to Norman, that's going to be, you can't lose to Jackson Arnold at home. Like that's very
exactly.
Obvious, like the intrigue there. I totally agree with that pick also. honestly, for me, because it is hard. I think there's like 5 or 6 of these that are right in the combo for me. It's kind of a low-hanging fruit a little bit because you could almost say that's any season. Red River for me.
Last
year with what happened, 30-point beatdown. This time around, John Mateer's first game, Arch Manning will be on the, starting under center for Texas, presumably.
Yeah.
I look at the schedules too. If you made me pick right now, and it's May 27th, but if I had to pick right now, decent chance both teams are in the top 10, possibly. I think Oklahoma's got a great shot to be 5-0 going into the Texas game. Now, Texas has to go to Columbus to start the year. And they also play Florida before the OU game. But nevertheless, I mean, even if Texas loses in Columbus, they're going to get a very high preseason ranking, top 5 probably. So that's going to be a very just intense. It's in my opinion, we talked about this before, the best rivalry in the sport, one of the best rivalries in all of sports. And so you kind of throw in how important it is for OU, John Mateer's first time, Arch Manning, it's hard not to say, because I'd love to make an argument for other ones, and there are strong arguments to be made, but just, it's the greatest anyway, but you kind of factor in all the kind of extra storylines, and Red River for me is still right up there. But like I said, there's like 6 games on here that you could pick, and I would really push back on it.
Yeah, you could have picked.
You're bound to have your options when you have the number 1 strength of schedule in the country again. Like it is a gauntlet of a schedule, just like it was last year. We'll see how they respond after that honestly less than stellar first season in the SEC. See if they have the offense kind of figured out with that John Mateer, Ben Arbuckle combination, bringing in guys like Jaden Ott, see how the new look offensive line looks. But that's really why I'm going with that Michigan game, because again, I think Michigan's defense is going to be such a good test for Oklahoma early in the season. Like I said, top 3 in SP plus right now. I think they bring back like 60-something% of their returning production defensively. So it's going to be a very difficult and, just a good litmus test for Oklahoma early in the year.
Absolutely. And selfishly too, obviously we get the pleasure of traveling to the road games, really all of them, even Temple, because just that's such a wild trip going to Philadelphia early in the year. But all 3 of the road games in league are really interesting rematches. Tennessee and Knoxville, that atmosphere, also with no Nico this time. You got the whole Heupel storyline again, obviously. Alabama, the rematch after that huge win. And then South Carolina after that debacle. I mean, like all the road games. And, it's kind of, whenever they announced that they were going to just flip the schedule, it was a little disappointing because it was like all the same teams, all the same matchups. But also it's kind of fun to have rematches after the year you just had, obviously. So it's going to be an exciting year. There's a lot of games that are interesting and exciting. And like I said, now that you kind of move under that 100 number, you start to kind of let your mind wander to the season a little bit. And it's exciting. I'm fired up, though. Nobody picked Illinois State. Unbelievable. To Illinois State.
What do y'all think about? I mean, just win totals at this point. I mean, I feel like when I'm looking at it, when I'm looking at it on paper, right now, just looking at it on paper, I could see 9 wins. If everything is like middle of the way, when you kind of give or take some games here and there because it's the SEC, I think 9 wins is a good number for OU at this point in time. I think it's where it could be at. I mean, as of right now, what I've seen on paper. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think an 8-win season against that schedule is a big, victory, and obviously a step in the right direction. And that's I'm talking about regular season only, not even worrying about bowl games or anything. But if you can win 8 games against this schedule, I think you feel really good about kind of the direction of the program after what was a down year, especially if you can kind of maintain any sort of continuity on the offensive side of the ball.
And that's kind of why I was a little bit higher this time, because the offense is going to be much better. And that's all they needed was just a little bit more. And some of those close games, you look at, the Missouri game and others, that's all they really needed. So I think I like, 9. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think you're going into the year, I think certainly expecting at least 8. I think that's where I think 7 and 5 or below would be, not that that's a hot take, but 7 and 5 or below would be disappointing. I think 8 and 4, depending on how the 4 losses go, there's nuance to it, competitive losses. I think you're okay with it, but I think 9 or above is realistic, and I think that's probably the goal. That's what they think. If best case scenario, things go as you hope offensively, you can get to 9. But I would say you're going to want at least 8 to feel good about it. I think that's kind of where I sit with them right now. So
yeah. Is the Vegas total still 6.5?
6.5 or 7.5? Is it 6.5?
6.5 is wild. That's pretty wild.
I think it was 6.5. I don't know if it's changed, but
yeah. So I don't know. We shall see. It's exciting though. Like it's just kind of it's still a long way away, but it's like you're starting to get the fever for it just a little bit. I do have one other thing on the football side, just a little housekeeping note here. They made another front office hire whenever that was of the last couple of days. The days are running together. Yesterday. Our own Matt Zenitz broke it. I couldn't remember if it was yesterday or a couple of days ago. Our own Matt Zenitz broke this with 24/7 Sports. They're bringing in Stacey Ford from UCLA. He'll be on Jim Nagy's staff. We kind of knew, Jim said as much, but that Oklahoma was going to make more hires, on the front office side from the end of the spring until we get to actual fall camp. Ford was the director of recruiting before UCLA at Washington State, which obviously that's been a popular place for Oklahoma this offseason. Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer. Anytime they make one of these front office hires, I kind of say the same thing to you guys. I don't expect to have any grand takeaways. It's hard to know what everybody's role is going to be specifically. But anything stick out to you here with this hire that Jim Nagy made with Stacey Ford?
Yeah, I mean, I think the familiarity with Ben Arbuckle certainly doesn't hurt.
Sure.
And also you look at where he got started. I mean, he interned as a scout with the Oakland. Saints? It was at the time the Oakland Raiders.
Oh, the Raiders.
Yeah. So you got a guy with scouting background, a little bit of NFL experience in there, obviously some West Coast experience. So they want to, kind of expand their footprint recruiting wise out west. That certainly helps. But yeah, like you said, with these hires, it's kind of hard to pinpoint like exactly what you're going to get behind the scenes in them, but it shows a commitment to investing in a broader recruiting and scouting department there under Jim Nagy.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm at the point where I really just trust Jim Nagy at this point. Like if that's the guy that he thinks he needs to really make this staff better, I'm all for it because you've seen what he's done so far. I mean, just this offseason, he's only been here so long, and it's been really well so far. So I really like it just because of that. And I think when you look at Stacey Ford and what he's accomplished in his time, even throughout his high school, like what he was doing as a high school coach, where he was undefeated for 2 straight seasons, that's phenomenal as well. So like it's all a really good situation. So I like it.
No, I think that's a fair point. At this juncture, granted, there hasn't been games or anything yet. Yeah. Really no reason to doubt anything that Jim Nagy's done. I'm assuming it's a good hire until proven otherwise, because like James said, Jim has been pretty strong approval rating so far with what he did in the portal, what they've done on the recruiting side a little bit. It's hard not to be kind of excited. And like Tom said, the Washington State connection is nice. I mean, that continuity is exciting, and it feels like it's a little bit of a vote of confidence in Arbuckle, Mateer, kind of the whole thing that Ford is making the move. So, we'll see, but probably continue to fill out that front office staff as we talk about kind of going almost to an NFL type of model. And this is another step toward that with bringing Stacey Ford in. There is a story on the site if you want to learn more about Stacey that our own Colin Kennedy wrote as well over on Sooners Illustrated. One other quick thing, flipping over to hoops. We don't talk a lot of hoops in late May going into June, but they keep scheduling big non-conference games. So I thought I'd at least bring it up. This is crazy. Oklahoma's non-conference slate. Now, also the SEC is insane. We talked about that all last season, and it's going to be insane again. It's not going anywhere. Oklahoma, who's had a great portal cycle, right? They made a lot of big pickups. We talked about that we think this team has a chance to be quite good in 2025, 2026. They've just loaded up their non-conference slate. Gonzaga in Spokane. They're playing Nebraska and South Dakota. Marquette in Chicago. You'll still have the ACC SEC Challenge, which you don't know who they're playing yet, but that'll be on there. You got Bedlam at the Paycom Center again as well. And then they just announced today, officially, they're going to play Arizona State in Phoenix as well in December. Tom, this is a heck of a slate. Exciting for us, more fun games to talk about. That's always the thing. You always feels like you never really know how good they are until conference play. And I feel like we'll probably have a pretty good idea this time with these level of games. But quite a slate and maybe a little bit of a show, Oklahoma kind of speaking with their actions of what they think their team is, that they're willing to schedule this tough in the non-con. Any anything you read from the way they've kind of approached the schedule this year, or maybe even a game in particular that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it shows that they're, not afraid to travel right now.
They're all on the road.
In years past,
Or at
they've
least
had,
not normally.
those multi-team events usually around Thanksgiving. Don't think they have that this year, but they do. Like you said, a few of these are I think technically neutral site games, even though look, you're playing Arizona State in Phoenix. That's a very short drive from Arizona State's campus.
Marquette, Chicago.
Yeah, you're playing Marquette in Chicago. You're playing Gonzaga in Spokane, but not on Gonzaga's campus. So I don't know how that's going to work out in the net rankings. Is that going to count as a neutral site win, or is that going to be a true road game or whatever? Just because of the proximity for those schools. But it's a impressive non-conference slate so far. Obviously got some teams with NCAA tournament experience on there. Guys, teams that made the field this past season, whether it's Marquette, whether it's Gonzaga, which has obviously been one of the just most consistent programs of the last, 20 years or so. Just, Mark Few has built a machine out there. But I think it's showing that, look, they know that the SEC is going to be a gauntlet, but I think it's putting a little bit more stock in being able to show what you can do in non-conference play, because they've been really good in non-conference play, really throughout Porter Moser's tenure. But, some of those have been weaker opponents. And look, you are going to have some lesser opponents at home, I'm sure. Those quad 3 games and stuff like that. But showing that you're not afraid to travel to take on better competition helps build that, March resume in November and December.
Mm-hmm. And I have to think that maybe this is a recruiting thing as well. Like you showing some other guys that, hey, we're going to play some of these big games against tough teams. Like we're going to be in those games. You could be a part of that. And that can be your pitch there. And so that's the way I see it. But I'm also thinking the SEC is tough enough. Let's not don't overdo it here to where you're really having a tough schedule and it kind of hurts you down the long run if you don't win enough games. So it goes both ways, I think, for me.
Yeah, if Oklahoma wins 20 games, they will have earned it with how tough the SEC is. And then obviously the way they're scheduling here, they won 20 games last year. And, they could get there again, certainly. But it's a slate. And like Tom said, they've played pretty good non-conference slates under Porter, but it's largely been in those multi-team events. This is a little different when we're going to play Marquette in a premier game on Black Friday in Chicago, which is obviously Chicago and Milwaukee are an hour apart or so. So these are big time games, and I'm glad to see the Bedlam is back. I thought Bedlam at the Paycom Center was really cool last year. I kind of missed the campus element, going up to Stillwater and then them coming to Norman. Maybe we can get back to that at some point, hopefully. But I thought the crowd and actually atmosphere in OKC last year was actually really cool and fun. So I'm excited to see that that's back. I like it. I like the slate. I like scheduling tough. I like letting fans get excited about your team a little bit earlier in the year, because that's always the sentiment with men's hoops is kind of we'll see what they are in SEC play or Big 12 play. Going back to that, it was so. I think there's a reason to be excited. If this team has got a nice looking record when we get to late December, I think they're probably legit. So it's exciting. I look forward to getting to see some of these games, and who knows, maybe we'll fly to Spokane. Probably.
I was going to say, if you could go to any one of these non-conference games, which one would you pick?
Oh, I'm a sucker for warm weather, so Arizona State and Phoenix will probably be in December. Because Chicago on Black Friday, that'll be tough weather-wise.
Yes, and then also coming back for LSU the very next day.
That's quite a weekend of OU sports right there.
Yeah, for me, it's either between Spokane, just because like I said, Gonzaga's been such a beacon of consistency. Cool. But honestly, that Nebraska game in South Dakota is really intriguing because I've seen those games that they've held at they call it the Pentagon up there.
They played there before.
Yeah, and I have some friends that have covered games there and said it's just a cool. I think it's always cool when you get those big non-conference games in a very intimate setting. You look at the Maui Invitational; it's played in a tiny gym. Even when Oklahoma plays in the Castling game, even though it's not against as good of an opponent, it's a cool setting just to have. That high level basketball in such a small, intimate space.
OU played Minnesota in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in 2019. That was also back in the Lon Kruger era. I think that might be what I'm thinking of. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that'll be cool.
That's where the Pentagon is. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, they have games there. I want to say Baylor and Gonzaga played there just last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago. So yeah, it'll be a cool setting for sure. Yeah. No doubt. So exciting though. Exciting to get these bigger games early in the year. It's good for the sport. Good to get fans excited. So looking forward to it though. It's a heck of a slate. They just keep adding. They might not be done too. Like they just keep adding more big games, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tom, we'll let you hop out. James and I will do some Diamond Sports Women's College World Series starting on Thursday. James and I are going to be there, so we're going to preview that a little bit. And we'll get into what OU baseball got handed with their regional as well. So, Tom, appreciate you as always. Talk to you next time.
All right.
All right, we now shift into the Diamond Sports portion of the program. James covers softball. I cover baseball. Very fun time. Obviously, calendar getting ready to flip to June. Women's College World Series starts on Thursday. Oklahoma back in the WCWS yet again. Still pursuing that, hoping for that 5-peat. Real quick, James, before we get into WCWS, obviously big match with Tennessee on Thursday. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to join you there. It's going to be awesome. But before we do that, real quick, obviously it's a little bit old news now because they punched their ticket a few days ago, but I did want to get your thoughts real quick on Alabama. Just destroyed them. I mean, just flattened them. What was it, 14-2? On Friday or Saturday in game 2. We thought coming in, we both thought OU would win, but Alabama beat OU the first time, in Tuscaloosa, and we thought, this could be a test for OU, and they just rolled them, and they're a buzzsaw right now. This is the best they played all year. Obviously, they have not even come close to losing a game in postseason play. You're at the 2 Alabama games. I guess just your takeaway. Is it that like this team is just they got it humming at the right time right now as they smashed Alabama in the Super Regionals?
That's exactly what it is, and I think we touched on it a little bit, but when the last time these two teams played, you're in Tuscaloosa, and OU's offense was sluggish. It was not playing at its best at the time, and so now you bring that back to the postseason where it really matters, and OU's offense is on fire already coming out of that regional. And that's exactly what took them down. I mean, they were you could not stop Oklahoma's offense. And Patrick Murphy, Alabama's coach, said it's so hard to play them because you can't just key in on one player. Like you can't just go and look at Cassidy and be like, all right, let's just focus on her and get her out. He said you have to go 1 through 9 with this team, and it's so difficult. It doesn't matter what pitchers we got out there. It was just like a battle for them. And so that was a good compliment for Oklahoma. A good compliment that says how they're playing at this time of the year. And it just showed. I mean, it just showed, man. Gabby Garcia, a freshman, leading the way with 20 home runs. That's something that not something even Patty Gasso thought was going to happen when she recruited her because she didn't think she was going to be a home run hitter. I mean, you look at, the size of Gabby Garcia. Obviously, she's a little on the shorter side, and she just finds her power, man. She finds it and is able to do good things. Ella Parker's finally fully healthy. And it just looks great. She's back to the top batting average on the team now, she was down for quite some time, and now she's back up there. And so there's just a lot of different things that are working for OU right now. I mean, offensively, it was just phenomenal. And so when you can do that and get good outings from Sam Landry, and even Kirsten Deal had a great showing in game 2, and that was really big because you really need her to come alive if you want to have a good run down the Women's College World Series. So it was phenomenal overall.
So impressive. We get a little numb to it because it's just what they do every year, but it's like you have to remind yourself it's a brand new team. It's unbelievable. And the way they're rolling right now, Sam Landry's, pitching at an incredibly high level. Like I said, they're getting contributions from other pitchers, which is scary because that seemed like to be the one weakness OU had. If they had one, was that pitching depth. And the pitching is in a great place right now also. And obviously offensively, they're rolling. So,
can I say something right quick before you even get situated? Because I'm glad you said that this is a whole new group. Now, Patty Gasso is already considered, I think, the GOAT in the sport. I think that's like the widely consensus topic. That's what everybody thinks. But if Oklahoma wins a 5-peat with this squad, which everybody thought was going to be a rebuilding year going into this entire coaching staff should be up there in the GOAT conversation as well. JT Gasso and Jen Rocha for what they've done. For a lot of these players, like I said, even with Gabby Garcia, who they didn't think was going to be this amazing hitter, to where she's grown to be this much. Patrick Murphy, Alabama's head coach, once again said, everybody was scouting Sam Landry in the portal. Everybody wanted her, right? We all went after her. But he was like, it is undeniable that Jen Rocha made her what she is right now. Like, she was not this good. And so that was like one of those compliments you think, man, she really did a great job because, Sam Landry came from Louisiana. I mean, so that was at a time where that's where her talents, had her at. Not to bag on Louisiana or anything like that, but that's what it was. And now she's at Oklahoma, the top program in softball. So it's amazing. It's amazing what this coaching staff has done as a whole. I think if they win this 5-peat, I think the entire coaching staff is like, this is the best staff of all time.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And I say a lot of work to be done, but even just the season they've had and getting back here the way they have already, you just kind of have to tip your cap. It's just an unbelievable job. But now looking at this week, obviously WCWS comes up on Thursday. They got Tennessee first up in the opener, 1:30, approximate start. Hopefully there's not rain and, first game goes long, stuff like that. But 1:30, the scheduled start against Tennessee. It would have been fun if Nebraska could have found a way because of Jordy Ball. I think we were kind of selfishly, from just a storyline standpoint for us and just that would have been awesome. But Nebraska comes up short. Tennessee knocks them off. Carolyn Pickens, who obviously James has talked about, best pitcher in the country, maybe, I don't know how you want to judge all that sort of thing, but certainly up there, obviously with the way she can pitch at such a high level and the speeds, just the sheer volume of the speed that she can throw it. Going to be fun. Again, the revenge tour continues. Tennessee took 2 from OU. We talked about this a couple of times. Took 2 from OU in the regular season.
In Norman.
Going to be fun. Obviously, it's not an elimination game. It's the opener, but as we talked about many times, winning the opener is huge. Coming back through the losers bracket is really, really hard to do. It's a little unfortunate for OU, the way the bracket kind of shook out because it seems like all the best teams are on one side. Now, the softball is different than baseball. Baseball, you stay on your side. Softball, you don't. There's some intermingling there. So it's not quite as, rigid as it would be on the baseball side. But nevertheless, it's Florida, Texas, OU, Tennessee are all on one side. Just kind of the way. There was all the carnage on the other side. It's all chalk on this half. We're going to be there at 1:30, James. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have lots of coverage from Oklahoma City. Just your thoughts going into the matchup. And obviously, you saw this matchup once in Norman. Tennessee won that series. But Oklahoma, it doesn't mean anything because they're a different team right now than they were back then. They're rolling. They're playing at such a high level. Just where do the storylines go? What are the keys? However you want to take it for this matchup, what should be a really, really fun one in front of what will also be a huge crowd as it always is on Thursday afternoon.
And you said it. I think it's a uncanny or just what are the odds that you get Tennessee in the first round? That's the one team that really gave you trouble. I think even when you were playing pretty well, not your best, but pretty well in the middle of the season there. And because you're going to have to go against Pickens. It's no doubt that's what you're going to have to go against. And she has an ERA of 1. Like that's, second best in the nation, only behind the Nigerian Kennedy at Texas Tech. So it's like that it's a tough first round draw for what's supposed to be the highest, seed left in the Women's College World Series tournament. So that's the way I see it. Now it's gonna be pretty tough. He's gonna have to turn up the pitching machines once again, as Patty Gasso has talked about a lot when they face a player like Pickens, and really focus on getting ahead in the count, really trying to find the best pitch for themselves. And I think it's going to come down to them hitting home runs. They've been the best in the country at that outside of Ohio State, but the remaining teams, they're the best at that, at hitting home runs. They're going to have to do that against Pickens. They're going to have to take some momentum early to really get her out of her groove, because it could be a battle, with her in the circle. So I think that's where OU's going to have to go with it. The storylines, like you said, OU's playing a lot better. Ella Park is going to be there to help out now this time around. Cassidy Pickering is playing outstanding. You saw her in the regional. She was definitely the MVP of that. I mean, just the amazing hit she had. Gabby Garcia, Nelly McEnroe-Martinez, like those are the players you're going to need big games out of them. It's just like the Oklahoma City Thunder. You need your big players to really shine in this one to get going. And I think that's what it's going to be.
Absolutely. And you would imagine, Oklahoma City, that venue, there's always a ton of OU fans there. It has traditionally brought out the best in OU and their biggest stars, right? And obviously it's new for all these players. Obviously, they've been unfazed at every step of the way so far. But, another level here, and obviously a big stage, and they didn't have the Big 12 tournament at Hall of Fame Stadium this time around, Devon Park. They did play there early in the year, get Bedlam there, but it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see it. Florida, Texas, the early game, so that's who they'll see next. If they lose, they play Friday night in an elimination game. If they win, they go to Saturday afternoon in a winner's bracket game. Again, it's not an elimination game on Thursday, but it's a much, much easier path if you win that first game. And Oklahoma did it once before. They lost to James Madison, came back through, but it's really, really tough to do. So a huge game on Thursday. We're going to be there. Lots of coverage already on the site. James had a preview today. We'll have more coverage leading up to start of Thursday. And like I said, we're both going to be there. We'll probably have a short instant reaction show, stuff that we usually keep for football. Might do a little bit, Women's Cultural Series and everything. So it's going to be a fun week or so, always is, in OKC, and we look forward to being there on Thursday. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. But, yeah, this is a heck of a matchup, OU and Tennessee on Thursday. It's going to be a good one for sure.
Yep.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, like you said with the James Madison situation, if OU somehow loses, that's going to be a lot of the storylines. It's like, well,
this is the
path. Yeah, it was just like this, where a dominant pitcher took over and knocked them out, and that's what it's going to be back to that. So it's going to be pretty fun.
I could see Oklahoma on Thursday winning like a low-scoring. I think Sam Landry's going to match pick. I think we're going to get two pitchers that are really good, and it's going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it on Thursday. So we'll be there. Keep an eye out. Lots of coverage over at Oklahoma247sports.com. 1:30 pitch, OU and Tennessee on Thursday. And we'll see. They might get another matchup in Florida, or it could be a Red River matchup. We'll cross the bridge when we get there, but it's going to be fun no matter what. SEC is just totally softball and baseball both. It's obscene how much the SEC is just dominating the diamond sports. It's crazy.
Yeah.
5 teams in the country.
And that's the thing. Texas A&M and Arkansas were supposed to win on their side of the bracket, so you had even more. So like now you get the Ole Misses and Liberty they didn't get over, but they were in the field as well. So like that's the situation.
Do you think? And I'll preface by saying that I don't think this, but it's been a conversation, especially because, like I referenced, one half of the bracket is so much more loaded than the other half. And again, in Oklahoma City, the sides will merge. It's a interesting looking bracket. Baseball, they stay separate all the way to the finals, but there's been a lot of conversation about should they reseed when they get to Oklahoma City because it is so one-sided right now. You like that, the idea of reseeding it?
Yes, I think they do because so in that situation, Oklahoma will be playing Ole Miss, who wasn't they weren't really ranked in terms of the seeding area. So they're the one team that's not ranked in it. So you would have an easier path because they're the highest ranked seed left in the tournament, and so you don't get that now. So it's a little weird. I think that's a little weird. You want to give the teams that earn the top spots, give them an easier path in the first round. That's not something that's new. All sports do that. So I think that's where it should be.
Yeah, I don't mind it being the way it is. I mean, if they did reseed it, I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't throw a fit or anything. I don't mind it. I mean, it's it's a bracket. It's kind of the way the cookie crumbles. March Madness, same thing. You just play it out. You play out the way the bracket shakes out. If they did reseed, I don't think it'd be like a mistake or something. But it doesn't bother me to leave it as is. It's just kind of
I just think
because how it goes when you're a big tournament, right?
Typically, you want the two best teams like in the final. You don't want it to be.
I will say
like a semifinal.
This has nothing to do with reseeding, but it's a little like there's 4 games, in WCWS on Thursday, the 4 opening round games. 3 of them are conference matchups. I would like a little. I mean, part of that's when you got 5 SEC teams, it's a little unavoidable. But you have 2 SEC matchups and a Big Ten matchup at night. It's like, could we get that's part of the fun of this, that you get different conference. You get some of these heavyweight matchups that we have not already seen. Again, I don't know there's not really anything you could do about that, but that's a little. I wish it didn't work out that way, which I guess part of it could have been if you see it a little differently, but what can you do? What can you do?
Yep.
Again, you have a bunch of SEC teams. It's a little unavoidable in that way. Shifting over to baseball. Yeah, go ahead.
Am I blanking on this? I'm trying to think of how the NBA does it. So if you're the 1 seed and say
you just play it out. I mean, just play
it out regardless, even if somebody else is upset.
Yeah, there's
play
no
the lowest seed. Okay.
The only sport that reseeds and it's not even really reseeding.
Like in the middle of the playoff
is the NFL. The NFL is the only one where the 1 seed gets a bye, right? And then they play the lowest remaining seed.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like a straight bracket. Every other one is just a straight bracket. You just kind of have to March Madness. Obviously, you see it all the time where it's like,
true.
A 9 seed makes a run, and now they're playing a 8, or a bad example, a 7 or something. And meanwhile, there's a 1 and a 2 playing on the other side. It's just kind of the way it goes. But if they reseeded it wouldn't bother me. But I don't mind it. Shifting over to baseball. So their tournament starts this weekend. Oklahoma got handed their regional. North Carolina, they're going out to Chapel Hill. The NCAA Tournament Committee loves sending OU to the ACC. This is now 5 of the last 6 times that OU has gone on the road, so not counting when they've hosted. They've gone to the ACC, and that's why I said all year. People keep asking me where I thought OU was going to go. I've said a bunch of times, I think they'll probably end up somewhere in the ACC because that's just usually what they do, which meant either North Carolina or Clemson or maybe Florida State, and they end up in North Carolina. I'm kind of conflicted on this. They had a pretty good week in Hoover. It ended with a little bit of a thud, losing to Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt did go on to win the tournament, and Vanderbilt's now the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, so it's not like it's a bad loss in that regard. It's not at all. But they didn't play great, played bad defense. That's been a little bit of an Achilles heel lately, a sloppy defense. But as far as, the draw here, coming into the year, I told myself 2 things when it came to the postseason. A, hey, they can go to the Big 12 now. Because they're not in the Big 12. You could go to TCU. You could go to Oklahoma State. You could go to some of these close Big 12 teams. That's nice. That's a nice little feather in your cap. That's easy for fans. Not one Big 12 host for the first time ever. Kind of unbelievable. Yeah. And the other thing was they won't have to go somewhere in the SEC, which is nice, obviously, because you can get away from all those top teams. They got sent to quite literally the highest ranked non-SEC team. North Carolina at number 5. The top 4 are all SEC teams. So by definition, they got sent to the highest ranked, the toughest, if they seed it correctly, the toughest place they could have possibly got sent. So on 2 fronts, just kind of really unlucky for Oklahoma there. Now, as far as actually what they could do, they're going to play Nebraska first up. That's their 3. Holy Cross is the 4. They'll play the host, obviously, North Carolina first up on Friday. It's not impossible. I want to try and make sure I choose my words carefully here because I do think it's a tough draw. Could they win the regional? I do think they could, but it's a tough draw. The main thing here that would worry me is for Oklahoma's sake is it hasn't been great offensively the last few weeks. There's been some nice moments here and there, but offensively, it's been a little bit of a struggle. And North Carolina has one of the best staffs in the country. They're really deep. They're starting pitching. So that's their strength, right? I'm fascinated by how Oklahoma will approach their pitching. I think they're going to hold Kyson Witherspoon back and let him pitch on Saturday. And they're going to try and win on Friday against Nebraska with either Malachi Witherspoon or Cade Cross. I think that's what they're going to do.
It's bold.
And I think that's probably the right move. Like, I get that there's that sentiment of win the game in front of you.
Exactly.
But, like, you got to go big picture, right? You're trying to win the regional. You're not trying to just win on Friday. You're trying to win the regional. And the best path you have to winning the regional is Kyson Witherspoon pitching against North Carolina. So I think you kind of have to play it that way. And so we'll see what they officially do. I would not be shocked at all, though, if they didn't start Kyson on Friday and held him back for Saturday. And again, I don't think that would be a wrong decision if that's the way it goes. But we'll see. Obviously, they played Nebraska once last year, way at the beginning of the year in Arlington. It was a 3rd game of the year last year. They walked them off. I don't think that means anything for this year, but, there's a little touch of familiarity there. It'll be fun. Obviously, those, old rivals getting back together. But, yeah, tough regional. I don't think it's impossible Oklahoma could get through it, but it's going to be tough. They obviously absolutely have to win on Friday. And then you hope that you get Kyson Witherspoon's best on Saturday. And then you're 2-0, hopefully, and you kind of go from there. But we'll see. I'm excited, though. It's always fun. Postseason in baseball is a blast. And I'm looking forward to it. 4 p.m. first pitch on Friday against Nebraska. And we'll see, James. But, yeah, they got to play, the keys, you got to play better defense. Skip Johnson admitted that yesterday. That's been a little bit, again, like an Achilles heel lately, just kind of being sloppy defensively. Got to clean that up. Dayton Taki was back in the SEC tournament. That's huge. Hopefully, maybe he can get out and play first base this weekend, which would be nice. And Jackson Willits had a nice tournament. His last month or so of the season was not great, not up to his level. He's obviously such a great player, but he had a nice tournament. He was on the All SEC tournament team, so hopefully he can build on that and take that into this weekend because they're going to need him. I mean, they need Easton Carmichael and Jackson Willits have got to be excellent for this team to go far. And we'll see what they do this weekend. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun. You have any thoughts on the regional? I mean, it's a tough match. Again, that was really not that they're anywhere. I mean, any regional host is obviously good, but you're going against a top 5 team. The top 7 are all SEC except for North Carolina, and that's where Oklahoma got that. So it's a little bit of like
my initial reaction was just because of that. I was like, oh, they didn't get any SEC teams, so I think it's going to be a good draw for them. That's pretty much what I thought. And you text me was like, well, I mean, it's kind of like the hardest non-SEC,
right? I mean, it's the toughest they could have got.
That's exactly what I was looking at. It was like, there's no SEC teams. I really like what OU's done against the non-SEC teams this year.
Sure.
And so obviously they're going to get Nebraska early here. Nebraska's, I mean, like you said, they're red hot. I mean, they came into the tournament, because of what they did in the Big Ten tournament for themselves and what they got. So that's a little worrisome, but I think Oklahoma is the better team, even over them. And I think that once you get that game, now you get into the North Carolina situation where it's like, all right, let's see what happens. Put yourself in the position to do it. Sure. And I think on any given day, any given night, you could come out with a win there. So that's the way I see it.
You could beat anybody with that guy, anybody. Now, obviously, it's a regional. You have to beat them twice, presumably. But you can beat anyone with Kyson Witherspoon. But yeah, Friday against Nebraska is huge. I'm fascinated by, like you said, they're piping hot. They won the Big Ten tournament. They smoked Oregon, who's obviously a host, a regional host in the Big Ten championship game. So Nebraska's coming in playing their best baseball of the year. I'm fascinated by if it's Crossland or Malachi Witherspoon on Friday. On one hand, Crossland's probably had the better season, but, Malachi didn't pitch in Hoover. So he, you want to get him out there as soon as you can, right? I mean, you don't want him sitting on the shelf too long and he'll be rested, So I don't know. It's kind of, you can kind of make an argument either way. But yeah, I mean, this team going in the SEC and playing all the great teams they did this year and playing on the road in all the tough places they played this year, they're as prepared from that perspective to go do this as, any team could be. I mean, they've played a lot of great teams and played in a lot of tough places. So going on the road this weekend, I don't think that aspect is going to phase them. It's just a matter of, can they play good enough baseball to beat a really good team this weekend?
Did Skip say that they weren't going to throw Kyson in the first game? Or is that like your own speculation? Like, this is what could happen.
Kyson kind of, I asked Kyson a little bit because, last year in this same spot, Skip held Braden Davis, who was the ace last year, back. Now, that's a different situation because OU was the 1 seed. They were hosting a regional, and they threw Kyson, who was the number 2 starter last year. They threw him on Friday, and they beat Oral Roberts, and then they let Braden Davis throw in the 1-0 game on Saturday. So that's a little bit of the precedent. Now, again, it's a little different in a 2-3 as opposed to a 1-4. But I asked Kyson, yesterday about, are you open to waiting? Do you want to pitch Friday? Are you open to waiting? And he basically said, like, I think that I'm going to throw against North Carolina. That's my expectation. Now, he didn't say for sure that's the plan, but he said that's what he expects to do. So
okay.
That's what I'm expecting. And I think that they'll go with either Crossland or Malachi on Friday.
Yeah, it's just curious. I'm just curious about it because back when I was in high school,
it's kind of one of those things. If you lose to Nebraska without throwing your best guy, people will, there will be fans who will say, "What the heck? Why did we, now we're 0-1 and we didn't throw our best guy? Now we have to throw Kyson against Holy Cross, probably, presumably, because you have to. Your season's on the line. You can't not throw your ace there, So it's one of those. It's a tough decision. It's why they pay Skip Johnson the big bucks, right, to make tough calls like that. So we'll see. I think you can make an argument either way. I think they're probably going to hold him back, and I'm okay with that. And just in my opinion, right?
It's just interesting to me because, like I was saying, back when I was in high school, we went to 4 state championships. And every single time we pitched the ace the first game, it didn't matter who it was.
Sure.
You gotta get there is what was kind of like preached to us.
It's a little different because it's double elimination, right? Your
exactly. So it changes.
Right?
It changes with the double elimination.
Because I'd be tempted, even if you played Friday and you lost, I would be tempted to save him again and to not throw him on Saturday against Holy Cross. Now I know that's scary, but it's like surely we can beat Holy Cross without our ace, right? Hopefully. Okay. But that's a scary spot because your season is on the line. It's tough call. It's why you just kind of, and I talked about this before. In 2022, the team that went to the finals, they went on the road, right? They didn't host that year. But what that team did a really good job of was they stayed ahead of it all year. What I mean by that is that they didn't get in the loser's bracket. They won. They stayed ahead of the curve the whole time. So they didn't ever have to go too deep into their pitching because that's what kills you. If you lose some games, you have to go play 5 games in a regional. Almost nobody has enough pitching to win 5 games against good teams. And so that's what they did in 22. They stayed ahead of it the whole time. And so that'll be important this weekend. If they can stay ahead of it and, win on Friday and then throw Kyson on Saturday and, win that. And then you have either Crossland or Malachi ready for Sunday. Like they could get through it. They could absolutely win the regional. But if you have to start playing through the loser's bracket, that's where it's going to get tough because you're going to have to find a way to bullpen your way through these games. And that's hard to do, right? That's just simply hard to do for anybody. That's not OU specific for anybody. That's hard to do. So it's gonna be fun.
And before I even get flamed in the comments, I'm not doubting Skip Johnson's decision or whatever he does. No, I'm not saying that. I was just like, I'm curious because that's the thought.
It's a hard decision.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to figure out.
No doubt. It's gonna be fun. Like I said, 4 p.m. first pitch on Friday. I'm unfortunately not going to Chapel Hill. I would love to go.
Yeah.
A little too far, a little too much of a journey, but I'll have it covering the games remotely. Go over, subscribe, Oklahoma247sports.com. You can be in the game threads for all these Women's College World Series games, as well as all these baseball regional games. We'll have the coverage 4 p.m. Friday against Nebraska. Will be fun. I'm excited. It's a great time of year, the postseason for baseball. Got the Women's College World Series going. Really, really fun next, couple of weeks, or so for these two sports. And we're going to have you covered every which way over on Oklahoma.247sports.com. I think that's it. Be back with Colin later in the week. Probably a Friday show. Keep your eye out for when that show gets posted. Probably Friday with Colin. Like we said, they got another commit on the defensive line late last week. We'll break that down as long as a bunch of other recruiting stuff as that's starting to really ramp up getting into June. They got a lot of big visits coming up here soon. So a lot to get into with him on the recruiting side later this week. We'll be back with James and Tom, myself next week. But look out for James and me on Thursday, both on the podcast feed as well as here on the YouTube channel, as we're going to have a short instant reaction show after OU softball's WCWS opener against Tennessee. So keep an eye out for that. So we'll actually see you here in just a couple of days, James and myself, on Thursday. That's it for now. We'll see you in the back here next time. For Tom Green earlier, James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway. Signing off for now. We'll see you next time right back here, as always, on the Sooners Illustrated podcast.
See you.